Acting. Good afternoon, everybody. We're back here in Singapore. It's 2:00 in the afternoon, and we have our next fireside chat. I hope you're having fun up until now. This will be a little bit different than only talking about the use cases in the financial world. We're actually trying to compare and contrast similarities and differences within the financial world, but also within the healthcare sector, because that is one of the other areas that is heavily regulated. So without any other delay, I really would like to give the word to Antoine, who's going to moderate this session. The floor is yours, Antoine. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, Mona. And I just want to say that it's a really great honor for me to be here. And it's also my pleasure to introduce you to Henk Jan Hoogendoorn, who's a managing director for the financial sector office at the Qatar Financial Center based in Doha. And we also have Mr. Ibn Liew on board, who's the executive director and founder of Access to Healthcare based out of Singapore. So very briefly, the purpose of today's panel is, as Mona described, is to explore the way AI is disrupting both the fintech and the healthcare industries, looking at the main commonalities and differences in both sectors. And of course, there's a lot to be said, and 20 minutes definitely not going to cut it. So we're going to try to pack in as much as we can. To get started, gentlemen, perhaps could you introduce you to the audience very briefly? Henk Jan, let's start with you.
Yeah, hi. My name is Henk. I work in Qatar for the government, basically, and we are attracting financial sector to Qatar. Qatar is a growing economy in the Middle East. You all know about them. Because we will host the football championship. But we also do a lot with fintech. So I see many developments around AI. So I'm happy to share my thoughts for the financial sector.
Awesome. Very, very nice to have you on board. Ibn, a few words on who you are.
Hi, my name is Ibn Liew. So I'm the executive director for Access to Healthcare. So we've seen many small to medium-sized medical device companies come up with AI solutions to benefit healthcare. So we're here to lend some knowledge as far as this is concerned, and happy to join this chat together with Henk Jan.
Excellent. Before we dig into specifics for both industries, I think it would be good to know how you both feel about AI in your own sector, generally speaking, right? So last week when we had that chat, Henk Jan, I remember you said something like AI is a revolution, but let's not mess it up this time. I'd be very curious to know what you meant by that.
Yeah. So basically, I think we are all in you could say the fourth industrial revolution, and it's all about digitization. On one hand, it's scary. On the other hand, it creates a world of opportunities, and we will discuss that today. So it's not only by making things more efficient, but it's to unlock the potential of the people that would not have access to healthcare before or to the financial sector. That's why I said, we have this great industrial revolution and innovation. Let's not mess it up this time. And it's for all of us, not only for a limited part of our world.
Awesome. Ibn, I think your answer was that when it comes to AI in healthcare, it's better to be conservative. Again, could you tell us more here?
To some extent, yes. I think healthcare is an industry that is been dying for disruption for a very long time. But one of the things that we want to bring people back to reality is that you really don't want any doctors to be overly innovative. Because imagine if yourself, right, in a surgery room, a doctor decides to go on a procedure that they have never done it before, and suddenly you are the one that is under the knife, right? So same thing with AI in healthcare. It's not that AI is not being used. It is. They face general challenges with regards to adoption, right? Who's going to use it, and with regards to data that is being used with the sensitivities coming with the patient's information.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about the major objectives and opportunities behind AI, because I think that's what really matters. So I think we do have a slide to share with the audience that you guys came up with, and I think it's going to be displayed in a few seconds. Eben, maybe let's start with you. What would you say the main objectives behind AI's deployment are across the healthcare and biotech sector, and how is this specific to this industry?
Sure. I could basically divide this up into three main pillars. One is to improve population health management, in the sense that collecting data and trying to make sense of data for strategic planning regards to population health. The second, which is very popular, is regards to improving operations, productivity gains. There's too many cases, there's too much to do, I'm getting tired, I can't focus, so can AI help me to do a bit of preliminary screening, a bit of diagnosis, so that I could operate more effectively. The third is regards to strengthening innovation. I'm taking too long to do this, right? Like drug development, 5 years, 10 years. Is there any way I could create digital patients? Is there any way I could simulate many different cases with the digital patients so that I can shorten my development time from 5 years to 1 year? So these are some of the areas that healthcare has gone into as far as AI is concerned.
Okay. And what about you, Henk Jan? Would you say this also applies to fintech, or is there something different here?
I would say financial services in general. I think the first start by people who run banks are old-fashioned. Say, if it can help efficiency or production gains, that's great, because bottom line, they will make more money. On the other hand, it will help people to get more informed information and hopefully to take quicker decisions. I think that is another element of in the financial sector. And the third, which is now sort of being discovered, is a better engagement or with your customers. I would say give them a superior client experience, know more about their behavior, and that translated into revenues. What I haven't seen so far too much, and that comes more from the innovation or the fintech sector itself, is to unlock new markets. And specifically, I would say the bottom of the pyramid, people that don't have bank accounts, and the SME sector that have difficulties in getting access to lending. I think that's an area to develop.
Okay, all right. I think we Mona and I, we know a person who's definitely working in that field in South Africa, and it's a really interesting topic.
Come to Qatar.
Yeah, I'll let her know. What we observe, across the biotech sector is that the traditional industry leaders and the innovation drivers are actually not necessarily the same guys, right? So you've got innovative solutions being deployed by often startups and young businesses. So the next question for you, Henk Jan, is in the fintech industry, who tends to deploy AI-powered solutions?
Yeah, so again, for me, the fintech guys are the innovative guys. And they in the beginning, they thought they could disrupt the financial sector. That doesn't work. We have some names like Revolut, etc. They're disruptors, but the rest are basically partnering with the traditional. So what is important, I think, there is that people put artificial intelligence and innovation on the strategic agenda. And that is something that the leaders in the financial sector will do, and the followers think about, and the starters have not even considered the benefits of innovation in the financial sector.
And you, Eben, how do the big players cope with innovation drivers across the healthcare industry? I think we've got a tiny issue with network. That's okay. We'll move on to the next question. I hope Eben can catch us up. Before we move on to matter of data collection and protection, which I think, Henk Jan, is a topic that you're really keen to talk about. I was hoping that we could get a bit more specific and give people some actual examples of how machine learning and deep learning contribute to better and more innovative solutions. There's a couple of companies that come to mind personally that I wanted to share, just to give people maybe more specific examples. There's Poietis, the company I currently work for, which is a bioprinting company based out of France, that is developing a machine learning powered software to analyze microscope images. So what they do is basically their tool can help distinguish different cell types in an image from a bioprinted tissue and automatically count them. And this is a really useful tool because it helps approach the whole tissue morphogenesis process more accurately, and then come up with better tissues for clinical purposes. But there's another startup which I recently came across from Korea called NeuroFet. And these guys are using AI to address diseases like Alzheimer's. And it's super interesting because, well, as you know, dementia is increasing around the world. And the main problem is there's no treatment for it. So it's all about diagnosis at an as early stage as possible to slow down the disease progress as much as possible. So what they do is they use AI to interpret MRI results and provide doctors and radiologists with quantified data, right? So they can segment the brain into 107 different regions. And then based on that quantified information, doctors can help validate a guess. It helps minimize error rate and maximize the processing, speed and accuracy. Henk Jan, do you have similar examples in the fintech industry? Actual examples or success stories of AI being deployed?
Yeah, so I think the one that is currently coming up strongly is something called robo-advisory. And it's first meant to help, let's say, mainly the private bankers and the guys who deal in stocks and everything, to give customers better information, or based on their profile, give advice. I think the next step is that the customer itself can communicate to a robo-advisor and then, take decisions themselves. So robo-advisor is one. And the other one is very important, is fraud detection, because, banks are under scrutiny, the regulators, and detecting fraud and AML kind of movements. AI can help a lot. And that is happening already today.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's definitely something you want to slow down as possible as well. Ibin, I think you're back.
Yes, I'm back. Just I was losing a bit of connection.
No problem. I was hoping you could give us a couple of examples in the healthcare industry of AI being deployed.
Oh, yes. Over there, you could see from the slide, there's actually different modalities in which you can employ AI, right? Care delivery, in chronic care management, clinical decision support, diagnostics, and so on. So there are many, many examples of companies that have employed AI. So there are diagnostics is actually very popular because this is directly relating to efficiency management.
Okay.
Because there are too many cases, for example, there are too many CT scans, too many X-rays, and too many I'll say endoscopies that's being done, and as a result, right, the images are just way too much.
Okay.
So annotation is number one. That means I want to spot cancer, I want to spot spots. I consider, could you spot this for me? Okay. Second of all, right, is that they would like to know whether what kind of spot this is. Is this cancerous? Is this not cancerous? Right? And as a result, right, this saves a lot of time for a lot of doctors. One of the problems here is that sometimes doctors will need to reconfirm, because in some cases they still do not fully trust. As we mentioned earlier, it's a very conservative industry. You do not fully trust, you still need the doctor to sign off. So now we have a lot of radiologists, for example, who looks at all these scans, who are now expert at signing off because of this AI, right?
Yeah,
so
it's very similar. I think across many companies, they face the same challenges, and the same use of AI is of course what we've discussed before. Time's flying, so if you don't mind, maybe we could move on to regulation. I think that's a topic you both already touched on. Henk Jan, you've mentioned about it, Ibin as well. And of course, there are two sides of the same coin, right? So you've got a protection, permissiveness, people more in favor of protection, people more in favor of permissiveness. And I believe AI is no different. So who would you say regulates innovation here, and what do they do? What do regulators do?
Yeah, I think Europe is currently taking the lead in terms of data protection, and let's say the other continents are following. I think it's important what's happening over there, because that will be the norm. And the key element is that the data is owned by ourselves, and we should give approval to share that data with the right people. And that's what you see happening in Europe right now in the financial sector. Yeah. I don't know exactly how it works in the health sector, but it's probably similar. And it's important because there's so much data, and data is the new gold, because you can do so much with that data. So we need to protect the individuals against or at least educate them. Don't give your data to everyone, only or with a specific purpose. Banks are scared to death because they have the data, but they don't know what to do with it. That's why they, and I think that is the issue. We already see examples.
Hello, everyone. Are you
If
there?
people allow to give data, they get money. So it's clearly that data is worth money, and that needs to be regulated.
Yeah, it's the new goal, is exactly as you mentioned. Yeah. Ibin, who are the regulators in the healthcare sector according to you?
In healthcare, usually that would be the regulatory authorities that is either a branch of the Ministry of Health or the separate regulatory agencies. So like in the US, it would be the FDA. In Europe, it's still governed by the medical device regulations via the CE marking. In Australia, it would be the TGA, for example. So these regulatory bodies are still the ones governing this. So the challenge for them is that because innovation moving so quickly, they're having trouble trying to learn what all these products actually do. And sometimes there's a skill set mismatch in the sense that maybe some departments there's a full of pharmacists, and suddenly you throw them a whole bunch of software and they may get thrown off a little bit.
Yeah. Something we merely have 2 minutes left in the panel, but there's something we definitely have to discuss, and that's something you mentioned, Henk Jan, is security. I think more generally speaking, cyber security and data protection. So my next question, and perhaps final question to you guys, is what's the main challenge that industry players face in your field?
Yeah, from my perspective, is again protection of the consumers or the individuals, and give them tools to change passwords and everything. That there's a long way to go because there's an education gap, and that is a danger. You get two sides of the world: people that know everything and people that don't understand anything.
All right, Ibin, do you agree on that?
Yes, totally. In fact, this case is exactly the same, right? I think we also have similar challenges with regards to cybersecurity about keeping all these guys who wants to ransom the data away. So we have the same issues.
I think something really interesting that you say, Henk Jan, is that bank have the data, but they don't know what to do with it, or they're scared to use it, right?
I'm generalizing, but you see the people like JP Morgan, they know how to play the game, and other people, probably regional banks or local banks, they don't have a clue.
Yeah, and in healthcare, the problem is
exactly the same. Exactly the same. So in hospital, they have a lot of data. Sometimes it's a bit broken. That means some parts may be missing and all that. I think it's probably the same in the bank, and same problem. They don't know what to do with it, and they're very unwilling to release anything. So they're stuck with this huge gold mine, just like in the bank, and therefore these challenges are the same.
All right. Well, final words. Thank you so much, Henk Jan and Ibin, for joining the session, and I'll give it back to you, Mona, as I think we're just hitting the end of the session.
Thank you very much, guys. This was a very interesting fireside chat. And I think one that we really need to continue because there are so many similarities. And I find it so interesting that you talk about banks don't know what to do with data or they're afraid to give a little bit away, which is totally the same in healthcare as well, because I have full-time conversations with my husband about that too, who's also working in healthcare. So very great. Please stay at the platform, mingle with each other. I would love to have you guys sometimes back for a longer conversation and more in-depth one. And thank you very much for your time, because I know for a lot of you it is very early and we appreciate it. Thank you very much. See you and over, back to you.